Hey, what's up, guys? Bucky here experiencing the winter here in Canada. It's New Year's or just around New Year's, and obviously one of the things that people talk about a lot is this idea of what do you want to be creating in 2018. And I know for me, it's been something I've been posting a lot on Facebook. It's something I've been talking a lot about. It's this idea of even this in December, like what are the things that you're doing in order to prepare for your 2018. I just recently did a post that talked about how based on a 2017 study that 80% of the people that set New Year's resolutions will have given up on them by the second week of February, and we're getting close to that, right? So it's almost it's so cliche to set those New Year's resolutions and do goal setting and things like that, but it doesn't mean that it's not powerful. And that's one of the things that I just want to kind of speak to today, because it's this idea of not setting goals because it's cliche or because you're just going to give up on them. I want to make some distinctions about what it means to have a compelling vision, what it means to have things that are driving you and pulling you towards the direction of who you are, and what it feels like to be creating, really the life of your dreams, right? Like so many people talk about this idea of, you have to get clear. And this is one of the principles I teach as well, is like the first step in any vision is clarity, like clear on not only the things that you want to create, but more importantly, who you are, So I did a post earlier today that, just kind of talked about those questions of who am I? Who am I not? What is there for me to do? And how can I show up in the world? And those four questions, how they can change our lives as we go through those different questions and start to look at our life from that space. But more importantly, the two questions I want to focus on as part of this video is this idea of who am I versus who I'm not. And we all have a blueprint of the world. We all have a way of interpreting the world, and we've all had conditioning that we've received our entire lives from our friends, from our family, from the places that we grew up in, from the norms that we hold to ourselves, right? And that's kind of our blueprint based on, how we were raised, where we were raised, the time frame in which we were born. We have this mindset of what's possible in our lives and what's true about ourselves. And this is the important part, what's true about ourselves, right? These beliefs that we hold about ourselves. And most of the time, they're not original. And the second part of that is that, they're not empowering beliefs. I know that there's so many of us out there, including myself, who have, constantly experienced negative belief patterns in our lives. Whether that's not being good enough or, not being loved if I do this thing, or, I know for me, there was so much time in my life where I pretended to be somebody that I was not. I pretended to be, I would act a certain way, I would talk a different way. I was very popular in high school, I had lots of friends, different types of friends, but what I found myself doing is I found myself disguising. It's a character trait that I call now the chameleon as I reflect back to my high school years and even some of my college years, and there's still remnants of that today. I think 2017 was a really massive year for me. It was one of the final chapters in masking myself and hiding in my life. And I think that there's probably a lot of us out there that constantly hide in our lives. For me, I was hiding behind different curriculums. I was hiding behind different clients. I was hiding in relationships. I was hiding in work. I was hiding in my effort. And it was all based on this belief system that I wasn't good enough. And again, it's work that I've done over and over and over again, and questions that I asked myself over and over and over again. But I remember in 2016, I made the decision, and this is where goals come in, right? I made the decision that what I wanted to do was level up in all the different areas of my life. So I'm talking about financially, physically, emotionally, socially, in my relationships, in my business, everything I want to level up. And that set a domino effect in a tremendous way. This idea of what will it call from me to move to the next level in all these different areas. And immediately what comes up is that there's all these incongruencies. There's all these things that don't match my values. There's all these places to look. Sometimes when you ask those types of questions, you start to see things that you've never seen before. And this is why I say, goal setting and creating a vision and getting clarity about what you want to create and who you are in your life is so important. It's such an important thing to do. And it's not necessarily you just do it around New Year's. It's something to constantly be in. But I believe that it's really important for all of us to be in the space of fulfilling our vision and holding a vision of what we want to create in our lives. I was just listening to a video today, and they were talking about this idea of get clear about who you are, get clear about what you want, and then spend your entire life looking to create that. And So many motivational videos, you get such the rah-rah, right? You get all the pump up, people screaming, people yelling, they're playing music behind it. And it's this idea of like, you got to go out there and work and get it done, and, all this kind of stuff. And I get that, right? I value hard work. I value getting it done. I value this idea of, you won't outwork me. And, a big part of that is like, am I clear first? Am I aligned? Am I in my lane, or am I just, sprinting in the wrong direction? And one of the things that I've learned from, all the different people I've studied with, whether that's Tony Robbins or Deepak Chopra or, all the different books that I've read, one of the big things for me is this idea on success and this idea of achievement and having the things you want, is, really 80% psychology and 20% strategy. And that 80% psychology is so important. What is it going to take for me in order to achieve these things that I put out for myself? And, and in its essence, that's kind of what goal setting is about. That's what visioning is about. That's what this time of year is about. It's a time to sit down and say, hey, what do I want to create in my life? Who am I really? How can I get back in alignment with that? Like, we're so busy, right? We're so busy with all the things that we're doing, all the responsibilities, all the job stuff, all the, all the family stuff, everything that we have to do. And, the other thing was not only that we're busy, but we're distracted, right? Like for me, I think about sports. Sports is like a sweet distraction for me. Like I love the ESPN app. I love watching sports. I love football season. I love basketball season. And there's sometimes like I use that as an escape. There's sometimes that I use it, to numb out. There's sometimes that I use it just to like zone out. And, when I reflect on that, I catch myself sometimes. It's like, dude, like get on your passion, get on your work, get on the things that you're creating. Like, is it really that important if the Seahawks win tonight? Is it really that important if the Chargers lose tonight? Like, is it really that important? Like the fights that are going on in the NBA, like is it really that important, or is it just a distraction? Or even the political scene, right? It's such a distraction. And yes, to speak about I'm kind of on a rant right now, just so that to speak about the political scene, like, there's parts of it that is like obviously disturbing, and there's other parts of it that's like cool. It's a call to action. It's like, what's looking to emerge from the space? Like, can we create enough perturbation, right? This idea of transformation is not a sweet one. This idea of I'm going to change my life and I'm going to level up and I'm going to move into all the different areas of my life and really go for it in a vision, and a clarity, and like I'm going to create this in my life through a place of clarity, is not necessarily one of ease, right? It's one of perturbation, right? You're going to be a little bit perturbed. And I think, Donald Trump, the president of the United States, does a great job of perturbing people, which is awesome. Because in a lot of ways what that does is it gets people into action. And that's one of the things that I love about this time of year, just going back into that, is, it is a time of inspired action. It is a time of looking. It is a time of requesting different type of information and saying, hey, what is it that I want to create in my life? Following through on it is another thing, right? And that's where the 80% psychology comes in, right? Again, 20% strategy, 80% psychology. So, whatever that is for you, right? I invite you to create a list, to create some categories. Obviously, these are different categories in our lives. You can start with some general ones and say, hey, this is what I want to do in my career. This is what I want to do with my health. This is what I want to do with my spirituality, or my, my God time, or my spirit time. This is what I want to do in my relationships. Like, you can make some general ones, but just make some lists. Just be in that space of like, what do I want to create? And can I be really honest with myself? And I think even in that space, there's a lot of negative talk, right? And one of the most powerful things that you can do in your life is start to observe yourself, right? So as you start to move through this list creation or this vision creation, start to observe yourself. Start to watch and listen and to see what's going on in your head and to hear the thoughts. And one of the coolest things that I learned in spirituality is like, we all have these voices inside of our heads, and we all think that voice inside of our heads is ourselves. We think, hey, I'm talking to myself. And it's my voice inside my head, and that's the thing that's talking back to me. And this is a good distinction of who you are and who you're not. That voice inside your head is not you, right? That voice inside your head is your conditioning. It's what you've been trained to think and to believe. It's logic, right? But it's not you because you can observe yourself, or you can observe it, excuse me. That voice is not you because you can observe it. You can observe yourself having that thought. And you can also observing yourself having that thought. And one of the things that Deepak would say is that you are the observer, or you are consciousness, right? And consciousness has a very strong connection with spirit, has a very strong connection with God. And I don't know what your religious beliefs are, but, for me, consciousness is something that exists in everything, right? Spirit is something that exists in everything, including ourselves. And we have a direct line to it when we start to listen, not to our heads, but to our hearts. When we start to come into our heart space and listen to who we are and listen to that subtle voice, that whisper. You always hear this idea of life is whispering at us, right? And we should learn to hear the whispers so that we don't have to hear the screams. Learning to hear the whispers is part of getting clear, and that clear part is one of the most powerful things that you can do in setting any type of intention, because if you don't know where you're going, any path will get you there. And most of the time, any path is not going to be right for us. So as you step into this 2018, it's still pretty new. It's still pretty fresh. We're about halfway through the first month, right? And it's an ongoing process. Obviously, life is multiple years and multiple, New Years and times like this. But the invitation is still the same. It's to step into who you are, listen to who you are, and to create a vision that is so compelling, so authentically that it sets your hair on fire. And that you just feel so in love with it and so passionate about it. And then you work every single day to create that, right? And the work looks a lot of different ways. It looks like external work. It's like, what are the things that I'm doing? But what are the things that I'm becoming? What are the things that I'm overcoming? What are the things that I'm letting go of the internal work? What are the belief systems and the patterns of being that I'm transpiring, right? So that I can actually be authentically expressed in who I am and to give the world in that way. So, I know there's lots of stuff out there, and I know it can feel confusing. And part of my role is that I've learned to discover is that my role, because of the way that I grew up with the people that I grew up with and the experiences that I've had over the last 2 decades with traveling all over the world and teaching and being involved with transformational experiences, my role is really to guide and to support people in the discovery of who they are. My work for myself is to do that in my own life, so that I can create the distinctions of how to support you guys. So just know that I love you and I'm caring about you, and that we're all in this together. We're all moving through these challenges. We're all creating our visions, and we're all changing the world together, right? Consciousness, the shift in consciousness is happening, and it's happening inside of you and me. Change is coming, right? Change is coming. The things that we've always visioned as part of our fruition are happening. And all we can do in our lives is to simply be ourselves. One of the greatest gifts in our lives is to simply be ourselves, because of the effects of that, because of the effects that takes shape in the people in the world around us. So, New Year's challenge, right? Again, 80% of people that set your New Year's resolutions, they give up on those resolutions by the second week of February. So don't let that be you. Don't let that be you. Get aligned with who you are, create that vision, work at it, find some coaches, find some mentors, some people that can guide you, find some books, find some programs, get involved with some people, work with me if that's what you want to do, if this inspires you. I always do free consults with people. I think it's so important to be able to connect with people, so I'm always happy to do a free consult with people. I got a program coming up, which is awesome. It's a group coaching program, so I'm happy for people to get involved with that if that's what you want to do. I try to put free content on here as much as possible. I have a busy life, but it is important for me to connect on here. So I just want to wish you guys some love. Know that you are perfectly in progress, that it's never too late, and it's always a great opportunity to get started. So with that said, Happy New Year's, everybody. Have a rockin' first month of 2018, and we'll see you next time. Lots of love. Peace.